I told my boss I needed time off for my kid's heart surgery. He said, "Don't be dramatic, it's just a valve." So I handed in my badge. 2 months later, he needed a miracle. Guess who held the keys? I'm Sean, 36 years old, male. And I still can't believe I had to beg my boss for time off while my kid was being prepped for open heart surgery. It was mid-April. I remember because the trees were just starting to bloom outside the hospital window, and I kept staring at one in particular, a crooked little sapling with yellowing leaves. The irony didn't hit me until later. My son, Aiden, is 9. He was born with a congenital valve defect. We'd known about it since he was a baby, but the cardiologist said we had time. Monitor it, they said. We'll wait until it becomes urgent. Well, urgent came fast. One Friday morning, his lips were blue after gym class. His school nurse called me in a panic. That afternoon, we were in the ER. A week later, a specialist looked me in the eye and said, "If he doesn't get surgery in the next 6 weeks, he won't make it to Christmas." I work in building maintenance. Not glamorous, not high-paying, but it's honest work. My boss, Mike, 42 years old, male, is the kind of guy who treats OSHA violations like casual suggestions and thinks family emergencies are just code for skipping out on overtime. So I walk into his office Monday morning, heart pounding like it's my valve that's failing, and I tell him the truth. My son needs heart surgery. It's serious. I'll need at least 2 weeks off, maybe more depending on recovery. He doesn't even look up from his email. Then he chuckles, and says, "Don't be dramatic. It's just a valve, right?" I thought I misheard him. My ears were literally ringing. I blinked at him and said, "Mike, he could die if they don't fix it." And the man, dead serious, goes, "Sean, everybody's got problems. I need you next week. We've got that downtown contract kicking off and I can't have you flaking out. You're the only one who knows the damn elevator panels." There was this weird silence between us. You know the kind where your blood gets hot and your mouth tastes like metal? I said, "So you're telling me to choose between my son's life and your broken-ass elevators?" He leaned back in his chair like he was the calm one and said, "Don't make this emotional. You've still got your PTO, right? Use 2 days, get someone else to help. But I'm not reassigning your work for a routine surgery." That's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. He meant it. So I stood up, reached for the badge clipped to my belt and said, "Cool. In that case, you can fix the elevators your damn self." Dropped the badge right on his desk. His face finally changed. Not worried, not regretful, just pissed, like I'd messed up his day. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked, tone all smug like I'd come crawling back. I said, "Yeah, I'm sure." And I walked out, heart racing, tears in my eyes, no job, no backup, just one overwhelming instinct: get to my son. I didn't know then how bad things would get, or that 2 months later, Mike would need something only I could give him, and that I'd make damn sure he regretted every word of, "It's just a valve." The hospital became my new home. Aiden was admitted 2 days after I quit. The surgery date was set for the following week. It wasn't even one of those clean, quick operations. No, this was invasive, multi-hour, rib-spreading hell, valve replacement. They were putting in a mechanical one, which meant lifelong medication, checkups, the whole deal. I slept in that chair next to his bed every night, the one that barely reclined and smelled like 1,000 anxious parents had sweated through it before me. I learned to hate that chair. I also learned every beep of his monitors, every quiver in his breathing. He kept asking, "Dad, are you going to lose your job?" I kept lying. "Don't worry about that, kiddo." But I had lost it. No backup plan. No safety net. Our savings were basically gone by week 2. I'd never told Aiden, but I'd already cashed out my vacation days the month before to cover car repairs and back rent. Rent was now 3 weeks late. Still, I wouldn't leave his side. Danny, my brother, 38 male, drove 3 hours to bring me a duffel bag of clothes and frozen meals my sister-in-law prepped. He looked around the room and said, "You need anything?" I broke down crying like a damn faucet. Couldn't help it. He just sat there and let me. Said nothing. Just let me be ugly and scared for a few minutes. That meant more than any prayer or pep talk. Meanwhile, Mike, my ex-boss, left me 2 voicemails. The first one was smug. "Sean, I'll give you one last chance to be smart here. I'll hold your job for 3 more days. After that, don't bother." The second one came 5 days later. "Guess you made your choice. Good luck with your situation." No concern, no empathy, just that passive-aggressive venom he always wrapped in fake professionalism. That was the moment I stopped seeing him as a bad boss and started seeing him for what he really was, a coward in a polo shirt who thought empathy was a liability. Surgery day was hell. 8 hours of pacing, praying, gripping that stupid vending machine coffee like it could give me answers. They let me see Aiden in recovery. Tubes everywhere, eyes closed, lips pale but finally pinker than they'd been in months. The surgeon said it went well, but there were still risks. 3 days later, Aiden opened his eyes. Weak, confused, whispering for juice and cartoons. I cried so hard the nurse thought something was wrong. He lived. my boy lived. But I came home to an eviction notice duct-taped to our door. We were out by the end of the week. The landlord didn't care about medical papers or sob stories. I begged for more time, even offered to pay late fees. He shrugged and said, if I make an exception for you, I gotta do it for everyone. Same guy who'd borrowed my snow shovel 3 winters in a row. So I packed up our lives into trash bags and milk crates while Aiden sat in a wheelchair half sedated, watching cartoons on a borrowed iPad. I tried to make it seem like a game. Adventure time, bud. New place, new chapter. We didn't have a new place. We had my brother's garage. Danny cleared out half the tools and rigged a space heater, brought in a mattress from the guest room, hung a bedsheet for privacy. Like that made it normal. I'll never forget how small Aiden looked curled up under a Spider-Man blanket. Still too weak to sit up on his own. He asked me, are we poor now? I didn't know what to say. I just kissed his forehead and told him, we're safe. That's what matters. But that night, I sat outside on the curb and screamed into my hands. I wasn't angry at life or luck or even myself. I was angry at Mike. Angry at the way he shrugged me off like I was asking to go on vacation instead of saving my kid's life. Angry that I'd busted my back for that company for 5 damn years. Holidays, weekends, middle-of-the-night call-outs, and got tossed out like a used rag when I needed a break. And here's the kicker. The only reason I'd stayed as long as I did was loyalty. That stupid dying man's code that blue-collar guys like me cling to like it means something. Mike didn't care. Never had. A few weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that the downtown property Mike managed had a catastrophic maintenance failure. Something to do with the HVAC control panels. Systems I'd personally designed workarounds for because the originals were outdated and the budget was crap. Turns out, after I left, he tried to replace me with a 22-year-old fresh out of tech school. Kid didn't last a week. Nobody else wanted the job either. Word had gotten out about how Mike treated people. So Mike was desperate. And guess who still had all the schematics, passwords, and override codes? Me. The building was partially shut down. Tenants were threatening legal action. I know because Danny's buddy works for the leasing company and told us over beers. Mike needed someone who understood the Frankenstein system I'd been duct taping together for 5 years. I waited. I waited until the night before their inspection deadline. That's when I got the call. Mike called me at 11:47 p.m. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Hey, Sean, listen, I think we got off on the wrong foot. That elevator system's throwing fits again and, nobody can figure it out. Thought maybe you could come by, help us out. I'll make it worth your time. Make it worth my time? My time had been bleeding into his weekends, holidays, and double shifts for years. And now he wanted to buy it back like I was some vendor he forgot to tip? I let it sit for 2 days. Then he emailed, can we talk? Name your rate. It was the first time in 5 years he'd ever addressed me by name in an email. No, hey buddy, no fake corporate tone, just desperation. I waited again. Then I called him back, real calm. Mike, I said, what's the issue? He was all sunshine. Hey Sean, good to hear from you, man. Look, I know we had some miscommunication back then, but I really need someone with your specific skill set. You're the only one who knows how the override panel wiring works. Building's got a state inspection Friday, and we're looking at serious fines if it fails. I asked, what happened to just a valve? Dead silence on his end. I'm sorry about that, he mumbled. It was a stressful week. I didn't mean, you meant every word, I said. And I meant mine when I quit. Then I hung up. I know. Some of y'all are probably thinking I should have milked it. Charged 10 grand, put him over a barrel and drained him dry. But that wasn't the play. That wasn't personal enough. So I went quiet and started planning. First, I reached out to the leasing firm through a back channel. Danny's buddy, remember? I told him what I knew. That Mike had been bypassing safety protocols, patching up outdated systems with unauthorized parts, cutting corners to save pennies, and now it had all come home to roost. He asked if I'd testify. I said, gladly. Then I compiled everything I had, photos of patch jobs, time-stamped repair logs, email threads where Mike told me to just make it work, and sent it all, anonymously, to the city inspector's office and the tenant board. Then I waited. Inspection day hit like a hammer. They failed, miserably. Half the elevators were flagged for being unsafe. One of the HVAC control panels sparked during a live demo. Tenants started pulling out. Lawsuits followed. Mike's name was all over every negligence report. He tried calling me again. This time, he was sobbing. I could lose my job, Sean. My wife's pregnant. Please, man, I need a break. I just said, yeah, so did I. Then I blocked his number. Update 1. Y'all, I wasn't ready for the way this blew up. I posted the original story at like 2 a.m. on zero sleep and a diet of vending machine Oreos and regret, thinking maybe 5 people would care. Woke up to thousands of comments and messages. Everything from, you're a hero, to, you should have keyed his car and salted his lawn. Some of y'all are unhinged. I love it. But real talk. Reading your replies, some funny, some heartbreaking, meant something. I've never felt more seen in my damn life, especially the single dads, the blue-collar folks, the ones who've been treated like parts instead of people. I see you. You're not invisible. You're not alone. Now, a few things I want to clear up. No, I didn't take any hush money. Not a dime. A few of you were like, bro, you should have at least gotten paid. Look, I get it. But revenge isn't always about cash. It's about dignity. And Mike didn't get to buy mine. Not after what he said about Aiden. Not after what he didn't say when it mattered. Yes, Mike was officially fired. The building's management company cut ties with him 2 weeks after the inspection. Word is his severance package got pulled too after the documentation I submitted. City slapped the property with 2 safety violation fines, and the tenant sued for damages over elevator outages. That's the poetic part. He got buried under the same paperwork he always threw in my face. Also, I'm not gonna lie, it felt really damn good to hear that Mike's golden boy replacement quit mid-week after someone got stuck in an elevator for 2 hours. Karma drives a freight elevator, I guess. As for me and Aiden, we're still staying with my brother, but things are looking up. He's off the oxygen support now, and yesterday he walked a full lap around the hospital corridor on his own. I've got 2 job interviews lined up next week, places that actually respect family leave and treat their workers like humans. I read a comment that stuck with me. You didn't just walk away. You made sure the door hit him on the way down. Yeah, I guess I did. To everyone who's ever had to pick between your kid's health and some jackass manager's quarterly numbers, I'm with you. Now, here's the wild part. I thought this was the end, but it turns out Mike wasn't done. The man showed up at my brother's house, and what he said to me on that porch? You're not ready. It was a Sunday. Overcast, muggy, that sticky kind of August air that makes your shirt feel like a second skin. Aiden had just finished a breathing exercise. He was watching cartoons on the couch, legs wrapped in one of my old hoodies. I was in the kitchen making grilled cheese when I heard tires crunch gravel outside. Didn't think much of it. Danny's place gets the occasional lost DoorDash driver. But then I heard the knock. Sharp, aggressive. I peeked through the blinds and my stomach dropped. Mike, standing there in a wrinkled blazer, sweaty, eyes wild. Like a man on the edge of something. He spotted me and started knocking harder. Danny was at his in-laws that weekend. It was just me and Aiden. So I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. Sean, he said, all breathless, we need to talk. Please. I didn't say a word, just crossed my arms. I lost my job, my benefits, everything. My wife is 6 months pregnant and we're going to lose the house, he said, voice cracking. I looked at him and said flatly, and? He actually started crying, real tears, shaking. He got down, on his knees, right there on my brother's porch. I made a mistake, man. I was under pressure. You don't understand what it's like, trying to keep a business afloat, managing people, balancing expectations. No, I cut in. You don't get to pivot this into some sob story about pressure. You looked me in the eye while my kid was dying and said, don't be dramatic. His face twisted. I didn't mean it that way. I was trying to keep things running. You blindsided me, Sean. You should have given me more notice. That broke me. You mean like the 3-day notice my landlord gave me? Like the 0 days notice you gave when you threw away 5 years of loyalty? He tried to stand, but stumbled, clutching the porch railing like it might forgive him. I'm asking for a second chance. I've got a job interview with a competitor next week. They'll call you. Just don't say anything bad about me, please. It took everything in me not to laugh. Oh, you mean like how you said I wasn't worth the paperwork to reassign? He went quiet. Then he played the last card. My wife's on bed rest. If I don't get this job, we're screwed. You'll be taking food out of my kid's mouth. There it was. Weaponizing his unborn child. I stepped closer, real calm. You tried to take my kid's father away while he was on a hospital bed. I lived in a garage because of you. So yeah, Mike, I'll say exactly what happened. I'll tell the truth. And if that cost you your miracle job, that's on you, not me. He opened his mouth, probably to beg, but I shut the door in his face. He stood there for a few seconds. Then he lost it, screaming, fists on the door. You're a piece of shit. I made one mistake. You think you're better than me? You think you're a hero? Aiden called from inside, scared. I ran back, held him close while Mike's screaming echoed off the driveway. Eventually, I heard tires peel out. But the silence afterward? It felt like justice. 2 days after that meltdown, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But curiosity got the better of me. I answered, and immediately wished I hadn't. Hi, this is Erica from Highland Property Services. We're doing a reference check for Mike Peterson. He listed you as his former maintenance supervisor. I had to pull the phone away from my face and just breathe. He listed me as a reference. The man who mocked my child's medical emergency, who tried to gaslight me on my own brother's porch, who screamed that I was ruining his life. Now I was supposed to vouch for him? The irony was so thick I almost choked on it. I took a beat and said, sure, I can tell you about Mike. And I did. I told her about how Mike ordered me to ignore safety concerns more than once to meet arbitrary deadlines, how he berated workers during meetings, how he penalized guys who took bereavement leave, how he forced me to choose between my child's surgery and my job. There was a long silence on the line. Then she said, "Wow, that matches what we've heard from another reference." Another? That's when it clicked. I wasn't the only one. Turns out two other former employees, both of whom I trained, had spoken up too. And Mike, in his desperation, thought I'd be the one dumb enough to save him. She thanked me and hung up. Later that week, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Just one sentence. "They went with another candidate? Happy now?" I blocked it. I didn't need an answer. I already knew. Because karma didn't just knock. She let herself in, made a sandwich, and fed it to him cold. Update number 2. All right, Reddit. We need to talk. Apparently, the porch scene stirred up a lot of feelings. I've spent the last 48 hours swimming through comments, DMs, and even a few suspiciously detailed job offers. Shout out to the guy who said I should run for mayor. I'm flattered, but I still use gas station shampoo. But let's get real. Some of you said I went too soft. Some said I was too harsh. And a few of you, my personal favorites, said I should have opened the door in a clown mask and just screamed, "It's just a valve," until he ran away sobbing. Tempting. But this wasn't about theatrics. It was about letting Mike destroy himself. Look, I'm not a saint. I wanted to break things. I wanted to humiliate him publicly. But in the end, watching him implode under the weight of his own arrogance, that was better than any fantasy revenge plan. It was quiet, it was permanent, and it was clean. Now, the best part? I'm hearing whispers that the company he applied to, Highland Property Services, circulated an internal memo about prioritizing ethical leadership after his failed hire. And guess who shared it with me? One of their tech guys, a dude I trained 2 years ago. The same guy Mike once screamed at in front of the break room for needing time off to care for his sick dad. Yeah, turns out the people you walk over on the way up, sometimes they're the ones waiting when you fall. Also, for the curious, Aiden's doing better than ever. He started 3rd grade last week and asked if he could dress up as a heart valve for Halloween. I told him no one would get it, and he said, "That's okay, I will." Kids got jokes. And as for me, I've accepted a new role with a firm that doesn't flinch when I say family comes first. They even offered me paid time off to get Aiden to his follow-ups. No questions asked. So to the hundreds of you who said, "You did the right thing," thank you. To those who told me I should have turned the other cheek, I did. I turned it, saw the hell he left behind, and decided he didn't get to escape it. Thanks for listening. And Mike, if you're still reading this, next time someone comes to you about their kid's heart surgery, don't be dramatic. The funny thing about revenge, it doesn't end with the scream. It echoes. Weeks passed, the weather cooled. Aiden's cheeks started getting color again. He could walk longer without needing to stop. He even beat me at Mario Kart for the first time, and trust me, I don't let him win. Life was rebuilding itself, one brick at a time. But then, Mike's mess started spilling. Remember the tenant lawsuits? Turns out one of the elevators Mike neglected malfunctioned while a woman in her 3rd trimester was inside. She went into early labor. Baby's fine, thank God. But she sued the property management company for emotional trauma and medical costs. And during discovery, all the work logs, patch notes, and emails I submitted got subpoenaed. So I get a call from a lawyer asking if I'd be willing to testify. Not against the company, against Mike personally. See, Mike hadn't just been lazy. He'd falsified time cards and logged repairs that never happened. And I had proof, screenshots, PDFs, email chains where he told me to mark it done so it looks good on inspection. I told the lawyer, if it helps that family get justice, I'll tell them everything. It wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about truth. Court didn't even last long. Mike never showed. Settled out of fear. That woman's family walked away with a payout and an official apology from the leasing company. Mike, though, he's untouchable now. But in the worst way. No company in our region will touch him. Not after word got around. In our circles, your name is your resume. And Mike's is mud. The final gut punch? He applied for a job as a school district facilities manager, figuring it was a less intense role. Guess whose resume crossed my friend's desk? My old union rep. The one Mike tried to underpay 3 years ago. He texted me a screenshot with the caption, "This the guy who said your kid's heart was an inconvenience?" And then, resume? Denied. Sometimes you don't need to kick the door down. Sometimes you just leave it open and let the truth drag them out by the collar. I stood on the sidelines of Aiden's first soccer game post-surgery, clutching a thermos of gas station coffee, trying not to cry like a damn baby. He was laughing, actually laughing, chasing the ball in his 2 big cleats, cheeks flushed, hair matted to his forehead. He looked alive in a way I hadn't seen since before the diagnosis, like he'd grown out of death itself. And all I could think was, I almost missed this. For a paycheck. For Mike. I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I apologized to every version of myself that ever stayed late at that job. Every time I skipped bedtime stories for double shifts. Every weekend I missed so I could show initiative. All for a man who thought my son's failing heart was just a scheduling conflict. Let me tell you what I've learned. Revenge? It's not fire and fury. It's not screaming in someone's face or watching them suffer. Revenge is getting your life back. It's seeing your son take off down a soccer field, knowing his heart isn't just working, it's winning. It's finding a boss who calls to check on your kid before asking about deadlines. It's hearing that Mike's been blacklisted from every property management firm in a 50-mile radius and feeling nothing but peace. Aiden came running off the field at halftime, breathing hard but grinning ear to ear. He leaned against me and said, "Did you see that block?" I stopped it with my face. I laughed so hard I almost spilled my coffee. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't said out loud. I'm proud of myself for walking away, for standing up, for choosing my son. This wasn't just about some petty ex-boss. This was about refusing to be disposable, about showing my kid that when someone disrespects you, you leave the damn badge on their desk and walk out with your spine intact. Mike lost everything trying to hold power over the people keeping his world spinning. I lost a paycheck, but I got my soul back. And you know what? That's the kind of revenge you don't just survive. You live it every damn day. Thanks for writing this out with me, Reddit. For every dad, mom, partner, or worker who's ever been told to stop being dramatic about the people they love, don't let them break you. They don't get to keep the keys. You do.